Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this video I am going to show you how you can publish data from your Office 365 environment to your WordPress blog. The data source can be any data source that is accessible to Power Automate. That could be Dataverse, Excel, SharePoint, SQL Server, anything really, it doesn't make a difference. In this example I am going to use a SharePoint list, this employee list that we can see on the screen here. And I am going to publish that to a table on my blog that looks like this. This is generated using WP data tables and a JSON array as its source. It's got some quite nice functionality built into it, so you can filter quite easily, and that comes back virtually instantly. Let's have technical support in there. You can see it works like that, and we can easily search and find any result that we want. Just got to clear the filters and then show you how it works. So there are two ways of making this table work. I'm going to show you both. They're both very easy to do, and there are pros and cons to each approach. So let's start with the list and the HTTPS method. So when we refresh this page, in the background it's executing a flow to populate this table. So let's go and have a look at that. We can see where I just refreshed the page, the flow has just run. So let's edit it. So the trigger action is when a HTTP request is received. So if I just copy that URL and paste it into a new tab, you can see this is the data that comes through to the table. So the next step, so the only thing that you need to modify on here is the method. If you set that to get, that's what will make this work. So then we go into a get items action to pull the data from this employees list. And then we go straight from there into a select action. And the reason for that, if we look at the run history, the outputs of this for a single record contains all of that. So we don't really want all of that extra information in our WordPress table. So I'm just using the select action just to thin the data down a bit. Now, what's quite important to realize here is that these column names that I've given in the select action are what appear actually in the data table on WordPress. And you can put expressions in here and do whatever you want, as long as that flow works to generate this JSON array. So then we just go straight into a response action and use the output of the select as the body of the response. And here we can see the results of it. So getting that into a table in WordPress is really easy actually. So let's just go and build that now. We need this URL first. And then if we go into my WordPress dashboard and go to WP data tables and click create a table. And we'll say create a table linked to an existing data source. And the data source type is going to be a JSON file. And then we just paste the URL that Power Automate provided to us. Save the changes. And then we can see it's generated our table. This is slightly different to the one that we just saw because this has got text-based filters by default. So I'll just click on the settings there and we'll choose filtering, and I'll change it to a checkbox type filter. Now we can see I can pick the values like this. And I can also change the table tools. So at the moment I've got print, Excel, CSV and copy. So I want to get rid of copy and add on PDF. and that enables that PDF functionality. Let's just go and have a look at that actually. Some of these features are worth a look. So print, much as you'd expect. Excel generates an XLSX file. PDF. That's some quite powerful functionality in there, just built in, and the results are reflected when you execute those actions. So if I want to see everybody in tech support, that's easy, and I can have everybody in legal, and sort by the department, those sorts of things. So it's pretty powerful stuff. So back to our create table. I'm happy with that now. Actually, I do want to just modify the font because it's too big at first. Let's go 14. So now I've saved the changes to my table. I can just copy this shortcode here. I'll add a new post. Add that shortcode in and preview the post. Okay, so there is our generated table, and I can do the same things that I could do before. Now, as I said before I started this method does depend on the action when a HTTP request is received, and that is a premium action. So this isn't going to work if you don't have a Power Automate premium license. That's the first disadvantage. The other disadvantage is if this page happens to be on a very popular page on your website, every time you run this, it's going to execute that flow. If we go back to my run history, it's not that one, it's this one. If we go into the run history, you can see it's just executed. And if I refresh that page, go into it, and then go back to my run history and refresh it, you can see it's just executed again. Because the amount of executions in Power Automate is limited, if you've got a really busy website, then that is going to exceed that limit and you're going to run out of flow runs. And then the result will be that that table does not get populated. So I'm going to show you another method of doing exactly the same thing, but without any requirement for a premium action. So if we go back to my flows, we can see this flow here. And the trigger for this flow is a recurrence. So this is going to occur every 30 minutes. In fact, this should be enabled, so let's have a look at the run history. Yep, and it has been running. So the flow is essentially the same. It does a get items and then a select, exactly the same as before. And then it does a create file action with the SSH connector. Because my WordPress blog is on a Linux web server, as mostly they are, I can SSH into it. So I've set up an SSH connection from Power Automate to my blog, and every half an hour it will generate that same JSON that we saw in the browser and upload it to a folder on my WordPress blog. So if we just take that path name there and go to my blog again and put in employees.json. That is the file. And that is lightning quick when it comes from the blog because obviously there's no processing to be done. It is just a static file. So the advantage of this method is that it doesn't require Power Automate Premium. The response to the end user will be quicker. It won't use as many flow runs if your site is busy because it will just run once every half an hour. The disadvantage is obviously this data isn't live. If I go into, let's go back to here. If I go back to this employee list and modify this first one, and change that first one to my name and then go back to here. This should instantly reflect that change that I've made. So there was Abdul there before, he's gone. If I put in the search pool, and there I am. Now with the SSH method, that would get updated after half an hour or on half-hour increments, but not instantaneously. So there are advantages to both, but when you actually generate the table, it's just going to be, let's get that again. You're just going to put this in instead of that flow URL that I showed you at the beginning when we created the first table. So both methods are valid. I think I kind of prefer this method where you SFTP, copy the file via SSH to the web server. That won't be an option for everybody because not everyone will have SSH access to their WordPress installation, but generally speaking, a lot of people will. So that's it really. WP Data Tables is a nice little plugin. It works pretty quickly regardless of the method. If you are doing a lot of processing at the Power Automate end, then you probably want to use the SSH method, because if the data takes a long time to generate, then you don't want the client to be waiting for that to happen before the table displays. So that's quite a neat little flow, I think. Give it a go, see how you get on. All the instructions on how to do this, the written instructions, are on my blog. So you can just go there and copy that information. And that's it really. So see how you get on. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, bye-bye.